Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, hey, hey. How's it
Hey,
going?
what's up, Daryl? How's it going? How you doing?
I'm okay, man. How you
Yeah,
been?
yeah, we'll take okay. I'll work with that.
Yeah,
Steady she
yeah.
goes. Sunny side of the dirt. I'm on the sunny
You
side of the
got that
dirt.
right.
I'll take it,
Yeah,
baby.
you got that right. For sure. All right, well, I'm already recording. We can go ahead and get started.
Got to stretch, Got to get my
Yeah.
hamstring good, Don't want to pull a muscle on this,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that. All right, so you got the floor, man. You go ahead, introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay. Oh, give me T minus 10 seconds.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on here today, Daryl. Really excited to be here. So, my name is Rafael McMaster, and I'm the founder and executive director of Indivisible Arts. And Indivisible is a 501c3 nonprofit located in Southern California, and we are focused on three things, my friend. Three things. Thing number one, creativity, unlocking the power of the creative arts, particularly the flow state that gets created when a young person is focused and present but not thinking. Secondly, consciousness, namely mindful awareness and the capacity to be the observer of one's thoughts. To identify as the soul and the watcher that it's observing and guiding the thoughts, rather than identifying as the thoughts, feelings, and emotions themselves. And thirdly, connection. Connection to myself, in part through the power of the flow state, the present moment, mindful awareness, and the creative arts. Connection to each other in service, and connection to a higher power of my own understanding. And those three things together create this state that is hyperflow, a state of internal flow and external connection and flow. And that's what this creative laboratory called Resin here in Hermosa Beach is full of dozens of young people learning these mental health tools, these mindset tools that we call the fundamentals, all day, every day, all summer long. We just had a couple dozen of them here earlier today. And these are our fundamental life tools. It starts first with awareness, ends with connection, and all the other tools in between. So we are on a mission. We are on an awareness campaign. This world needs it now more than ever. And when I look at the future and the onslaught, the avalanche of dire things coming our way at the intersection of screen addiction and AI, I know that in 5 years from now, when we look back at the time when we're starting this mission to unite 1 million aware minds, that we're going to be very, very happy that we started when we did, today, right here, right now, with you, your guests, this audience, this place, right here, right now, right time, right mind.
That's right. I'm
That's right.
impressed with all of this. I'm very impressed with what you're doing. Bringing awareness to the young folks. So, what do you think are the biggest mental health challenges you're seeing today in teenagers?
Start with this screen.
The phone.
Screen. Um, Already, when I orient myself with a obsessed sense of self,
Mhm.
that's just going to increase all the problems, challenges, and anxieties I have. When my life is all about me, I'll speak from my own personal experience. For the first 35 years of my life, when my life was all about me, then the weight and pressure of the world in each present moment was unbearable. I was all I thought about. I didn't think much of myself, but I was all I thought about. And everything that happened, I oriented to myself so I could physically feel each moment and I could feel the weight of each moment. And so then I wanted to check out. I wanted to numb out. I wanted to distract myself. So the amount of points of self that happened because of this cell phone, we're talking my account, my Instagram, my this, my that, the amount of pings and notifications that I get that keep reminding myself 300 times a day about the me of it, my iPhone. This is creating an intrinsic world that has a lot of weight to it because it is reminded of the immensity of self and all the time. And it's this practice of getting out of self by being the observer of self and then connecting to each other through service, learning to live for others, learning to have the willingness and the selflessness to get into this stream, the current, the flow of life because I'm giving to others. Yeah, now we're cooking. Now we're cooking.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so many young people get to experience it through the power of sports. Right? My goodness, what a beautiful thing sports are. But there's many young people out there who don't have the joy and beauty and grace of sports at their fingertips. And so for those, we want to make sure the power of music, creativity, arts as a pathway back home to the flow state of the soul is available for them as a pathway back to mental wellness.
Fair enough. I agree with that. Everything you said makes perfect sense. I understand that. So, besides the phone, why do you feel that so many teenagers or people, whoever, are feeling disconnected or overwhelmed?
Mm. You know, the average person alive today in a more developed country has a higher standard of living than royalty 200 years ago. Mm-hmm. The kings and queens and czars and czarinas actually don't have it as good as I have it today with my unlimited hot showers and my Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, the discography and anthology of every album, created and recorded all on my phone with the high res camera, and it's a supercomputer in my hands. What an amazing time to be alive. Don't get me started about soap and literacy, plumbing. So the need to lean into each other and to family to survive and have a sense of purpose has been made so comfortable that it's almost uncomfortable to be present with that truth. And finding a way, a reason to escape all of that becomes so easy. We live in a particular community around here where there's some affluence, and we see a particular kind of curse that overcomes some of these kids that grow up with so many of the things where they don't have much purpose. If I'm already growing up with so many of the things, then why do I need to go out there in the world to fight and scrap for it? I can just stay home with my phone, right? The game of life has been reduced to Candy Crush. And that's oversimplifying it. But I think this deeper sense of purpose, a lot of that's been lost. I think a connection to a higher power of one's own understanding, a lot of that's been lost. I think before in previous millennia, spiritual beliefs and having a presence of God and community through God has been part of what gives people the relief from the suffering. And in that relief from suffering, they find salvation and surrender in each other. Hope, faith, these deeper essences of the human experience. But we take all that stuff off the table because of science and technology. All of a sudden, the purpose behind life starts to feel paper thin. And that by itself, I think, starts to erode our relationship to soul. I think that's what it is. I think it's the corrosion of our relationship to our souls would be the answer I'd give you to that question.
So if there was one thing you could change on about how we approach the youth and mental health, the teenagers' mental health, what would it be?
Well, the easiest and most obvious would probably involve the phone and how we relate to it. But we'll take that off the table just for the thought experiment of the conversation. And instead, what I would say is training them in mindful awareness. Now, here's the thing about mindfulness. I remember being taught mindfulness when I was in high school, or rather, I don't remember because I don't remember what they said, because the way that it was taught to me, it made me think, I don't really get it, I don't understand the point, and let me just wait till this period's over and I'll be moving on. I think the way that mindfulness has been taught didn't have a sense of effectiveness. But when we reframe it as awareness, and we really succeed at teaching these teenagers, I am not my thoughts. I'm the one having thoughts. I'm the one observing my thoughts. And all the thoughts I'm having are like programs. The thought form, oh my gosh, I am so anxious, is going to run a program that makes me more anxious. And by being trained at observing the thought forms with some distance, I regain the opportunity for mindset mastery, putting the control back into my hands, the skill and opportunity and power back into my hands to be able to guide my mind rather than having my mind guide me. Now, it's all estimated that only 10 to 20% of our population understands this truth. Only 10 to 20% of our population understands mindful awareness. That's wild to me, and it makes sense why we have so many mental health challenges when a person really drills further into someone's life who's struggling with mental health challenges and they're overrun with depression or anxiety, and you begin to ask them, what are the thought forms that you're having? And they begin to explain, I don't like this, I'm overwhelmed by this, I can't do this. And they begin to tell all the stories that are running, playing, and perseverating in their interior realm. It's no wonder this person feels the way they do. But when they become empowered by the nature of neurolinguistics, metacognition, cognitive noticing, call it what you will, awareness, when they become empowered by awareness, all of a sudden life takes on a completely different opportunity and pathway. This is the promise, hope, and truth of this awareness campaign that we're on to try and spread this like a intellectual contagion for good. And we're seeing such amazing results with young people that are shifting their consciousness and ascending into new states of elevated mindsets, because not only do they see the power in it, but they see the power in teaching others, teaching their friends how empowered they can become when they become the masters of their own mindsets.
That's right. That's right. 100%. So in this case, like, what was your triggering point? What inspired you to create Invisible Arts? What was that moment like, I got to do this?
So that moment it was a cocktail of two ingredients coming together in a combustible moment. Ingredient one, I was in rehab. I was getting sober. I wanted to transform my life. And it was there at age 35 that someone first told me, you are not your thoughts, you're the one having the thoughts. And it was like all of a sudden the scales falling from my eyes, or it's like the end of The Usual Suspects movie where all of a sudden you're looking back going, oh, wait a minute, verbal right, Kaiser Shize? No way, right? Everything looks different. By the way, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Usual Suspects, forget that you heard that line. Anyway, so it was that moment and realizing, how come nobody taught me this? How come nobody told me this? Now, as I've gotten older and reflecting upon things, I realized that this is what they were talking about with mindfulness, but I didn't get that. And maybe this is what they were saying in, when Rene Descartes was saying, I think, therefore I am. I didn't have it explained to me like that's what he was pointing at, right? So there was a sense of frustration that this wasn't taught to me at any point, because I realized how much suffering I could have avoided had I known this truth. So that was part one. And part two was realizing that the nature of addiction does not distinguish between what it was that makes the addictive neurological pathways. So whether it's alcohol, heroin, porn, or a phone that makes the addictive neurological pathways, then once the person has those obsessive, compulsive, loop-based grooves bundled in their mind through these bundles of neurons that are addictive in nature, then even if they stop drinking alcohol, the next thing is going to go in there, and that's considered cross-addiction. So a person stops drinking, all of a sudden they get really into sugar. They stop doing sugar, now they're into nicotine. And it's this game that addicts play with managing the addictive nature of this loop-based cross-addiction. Ultimately, realizing this was going to be part of my story, I decided I'm going to put service in there. And so one considered me addicted to service, but another way of saying it is that I have a lot of dedication to it, right? Either way, it was this realization that since the neurology of addiction does not distinguish and cross-addiction exists, then that means we're about to have 3.8 billion addicts on this planet. winter is coming. Winter is coming at the intersection of 90% of people don't understand awareness exists, and they're all about to become addicts because they've been owning phones for 8, 10, 12, 15, 18 years. Let's just check in on that 8-year-old when they're 26 years old and they've had a phone in their hand for 18 years, and all of a sudden they start seriously drinking for the first time, or their doctor prescribes them Xanax or Adderall or something of that nature, and they're off to the races, and they don't realize they have a predisposition to addiction because they didn't see it in their household, but now they're off to the races. That's why I'm fired up about what we're doing, because I realize that we're about to experience an avalanche of, an addiction crisis that the phone is teeing up, and then it's about to activate. In the next 3 to 5 years, I think we're about to see an explosion in the rate of addiction. And at that point, I want to be prepared to be of greatest service possible to that need.
What do you think we could do about that? Like, you doing your part, and this is the phenomenal part. You doing your part. But what do you think that other people could do? Like you mentioned that, checking in and, all these other things. Like, for us adults, do you think that we could do more to kind of keep them from, well, not necessarily keeping them from doing it, but kind of like helping them understand that phones are not everything, and that there's more to the world than just having their phone in their hand?
There's the power of the story of the 4-minute mile, right? People have been trying to run the 4-minute mile. No one could do it. And then finally, when somebody ran the 4-minute mile, then a bunch of people were able to run it soon after. It was modeling that it was possible that then unlocked that possibility for others to see, oh, this is a doable thing. So for a young person observing their parent addicted to their phone, well, that's what they're seeing modeled. For them to observe their parent have healthy phone habits, that's what they're going to see as possible. So, I think the best thing that we can do is model what healthy habits look like, so that a younger person who's observing it can see that that's a natural possibility. But another thing that we can do is make possible the value that one can create out of the time we're afforded on this planet in this lifetime that's full of life and time. I mean, if a person were to spend 8 hours a day on their phone, which I think the latest Nielsen survey, I think we're at like 7.5 hours a day, right? Pandemic, I think it was like above 10. So let's say almost 8 hours a day on a phone, on a screen. If a person were to play that out over an average lifespan, which I think is like 77.8 years, something like that, I think that equates to like 27.5 years on a screen. Think about that. Now, if we imagine what a person can do with 27 years back of their time, and their ability to become great at playing guitar, writing music, learning to kite surf, I don't know, pick a hobby. There's so many amazing things to do that are the expression of human soulfulness on this planet. And if I'm modeling that to others in a present, focused, mindfully aware state where I'm showing beyond a shadow of a doubt the jovial nature of being able to be a creative going through the life, living in a big, expressive, inspired way, well, then a younger person who's observing this doesn't need to think about it cognitively to understand, yo, that works. I like that. I want what he has. So by modeling it in the world, I think is the most effective way of expressing the potential of living life in this hyperflow state where I am in control of my phone, my life, my creative destiny. Modeling it, I think, is the most effective thing we can do. And one other thing comes to mind is this. This idea, I am not my thoughts, I'm the one having my thoughts. Yet we have all these intrusive thoughts. Where do they come from? I have all these parents who come to me and say, well, I care so much about being a good parent. What can I do for my kids? And I say, those intrusive thoughts in your head that nag at you? Yeah, totally. Yeah, where do those thoughts come from? Where do you hear repeating voices in your head? And for so many of them, it's their parents. The parents do so much programming with their kids don't do that. You should do that. You don't have a good voice. Whatever it is, the power we have as parents, understanding the power of what we say to our kids, not only is that what they're hearing today in real time, but it might be the programs they're hearing decades from now, even if they don't even know that it's us playing in their head. It just sounds like a voice in their own head now. And so just being very, very accountable that the things that I say to my daughter very well may be the programs that she's wrestling with when she's in her mid 40s. And I want to do right by her.
Let me back up your point when you talked about that. Growing up, I wanted to become an auto mechanic. I wanted to fix cars and all that good stuff. Like, um, I think it was in high school. Me and my brother wanted to actually, you know, do the auto mechanic business. We wanted to get into the business, create it, do our own thing with it together, and do it. So we brought that attention to my mom. And the first thing that she says is that, well, y'all can't do that because you're not good in math. So the first thing I thought about was, in that time, I was just thinking, well, okay, since he said that, I'm just going to go on and see if I can find another profession, maybe something that I'm good at. Not realizing that she didn't actually put into our heads that, oh, you could do this, you could do that, you could be auto mechanics, you know, you got to improve in your math a little bit, but yeah, you could do it. Nah, it didn't work like that. It was straight up, hey, you are not good at math, y'all cannot be auto mechanics. So, with that being said, my brother now works for a company as, I'll say, like, dealing with numbers. He does math. He does everything. That's his job now. And it's like, okay, if we just couldn't be the auto mechanics like we wanted to be, why did he actually get a job that requires him to play with numbers, to actually add with numbers and stuff like that? And I ended up becoming I'll say a B average student in math after she said that. I think closer to a C, B minus C, whatever in that range. But I was good. And that just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, because you just can't really put a child down to do that. And that's what I'm, you know, regulating with my daughter. She's 5. And I'm, you know, teaching her, hey, you can be anything you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do, because anybody can do it. You know, we're all gonna have our struggles, right? We're gonna have our struggles in actually trying to, you know, pick our profession and do what we want to do. And she tells me all the time that she wants to become a doctor. She wants to help people. I said, baby, if you want to be a doctor, go for it. You know, just go for it. If you change your mind, if you choose that it's too hard for you, you can always change that profession. I got your back. You do what you got to do if you want to work on that.
That's beautiful.
And that was just me just backing up your point.
Yeah.
Like, we have to, us parents have to really rewire our brains to be more supportive when it comes to our child. Back in them days, you really couldn't get that. You just couldn't.
Yeah, I think we know so much more now about, I think I totally agree. That's a beautiful story. And I can already hear in the sincere love that you have for your daughter. Aren't they the best? I have a daughter as well. And that's just like, that's the center of my heart. That's the center. Tasha's the center of my being. You know, I'll do anything for her. And yet at the same time, a parent can have that sincere love. They'll do anything for their kid, but they maybe don't know how to speak in a way that's deeply supportive. Maybe they think they're doing the right thing by saying that, because that's what what was said to them. Once again, I will continue to replay the same programs that program me unless I have the conscious awareness to be the observer, by which now I have a choice. I can see the programs being put forth in my brain. I could say this, or this. Turns out this one will be most helpful, which is very different than just blurting out the first thing that pops in my head because I identify as that voice in my head. I just got to say whatever it says, right? One will notice the people who, awareness is the tool that everybody needs, but they don't know they need, which is why they need it. Right. And it's always the ones who lack awareness and they're living in ignorance that sometimes feel like they have the strongest opinions. They know everything. And let me tell you another thing. If they have the opportunity to be the observer of their thoughts with a little bit of space and regulation, and then they may begin to notice, I've got that opinion, but there's also this opinion. And actually, of all of those, this one will be the best. So it's that level of like self-awareness and discernment. And listen, there's three kinds of people. There's the people that are listening to this right now on your podcast that are like, what the heck is this guy talking about it? So that's cool. I actually appreciate anyone who's hearing about awareness for the first time on this podcast, or really, I didn't hear about it till I was 35. So there is a very good chance that, listen, if only 10% know, that means 90% might be listeners going, what is he talking about exactly? And what I'm talking about is the practice of being the watcher of my thoughts and knowing that I am not my thoughts. The thoughts sound just like me. It's a voice that impersonates me perfectly, but I am not those thoughts. I'm the one having the thoughts, guiding the thoughts, watching the thoughts, and creating new thoughts, right? And there's just changing in the relationship. The challenge is, since I didn't hear about this till I was 35, then I had a hard time really believing it and accepting it, because I'm surrounded in me. I'm covered in me. I sound just like me. But creating more and more distance through practices of non-judgmental, objective observation, or cognitive noticing, or meditation, presence. Any of these practices, so many practices a person can learn to do that I can do anywhere, that make me more skillful at being the observer of my thoughts. And I only belabor this notion because if there's a chance that one of your listeners is in that 90% that hadn't heard about awareness yet, then I would love for this to be this magical moment, the same way I had a magical moment when I was 35 and somebody said it to me and the light bulb turned on and I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole other thing going on here. That's so fantastic. Now, that's one kind of person. A second kind of person is the person who's heard about mindful awareness and kind of gets it. Yeah, I get it. I'm not my thoughts. I'm the one watching my thoughts. It makes sense. But there's that gestation period, 3 months, 6 months, a couple years, to where I'm really practicing it so much that now I'm in mastery because I have that distance and relationship that I can be the one guiding and wielding my thoughts. And then there's that third kind, the type of person who's been practicing for years and totally knows that it's the jam. Knows that, yeah, this is my seat of power. This is the pathway to mindset mastery. And we'll understand and know, yeah, mindful awareness is the thing that we have to spread like wildfire if we're going to change the consciousness of this nation and change the consciousness of this planet. The good thing is, it's free. It's totally free.
Right.
And so we can spread it and share it amongst to each other. And that's why I'm on this awareness campaign. Every podcast I'm on, every conversation I have, it always comes back to this conversation of awareness, because honestly, I can't hear it enough. The more I hear it, the more I'm reminded to get into that space where I'm the observer of my thoughts instead of identifying as the thoughts themselves.
So why combine that creativity with mental wellness?
Oh, yeah.
Since you talked about that.
That's a great
Let's
question.
dig deeper into that.
Let's do
Why
that.
combine that? Talk about that.
Sure. So, part one, art. Let me say this. Thoughts are the language of the mind. Yeah. Emotions are the language of the body. And art is the language of the soul. Right? When I'm creating, I'm present, I'm focused, but I'm not thinking. How is it that I could be doing this and this and this and all these different things but not be thinking? Then who's doing the operating? Then that must be my soul. That must be my soul. And I don't know that many pathways back to the soul in the modern everyday experience of life. The moment I open up my laptop, my soul's like, yeah, later. The moment I'm doing taxes and paperwork and all that, just stick in traffic, whatever, my soul's like, yeah, this is not my experience. But once I start doing creative stuff, even if it's just doodling, even if it's just dorking around on the guitar, all of a sudden, I don't know, I feel different. Can't quite put my finger on it. What is this feeling? Oh, this is my spirit in body, inspired. This is where the word inspired comes from. Soul in body, spirit in body, breathing in spirit. So the words are already there when we think of, oh, that was a really soulful experience or soul music. We know this already. There's this connection between creativity and soul. And so do I want to be, our mental health issues are mental, right? So then we try to solve them with more mental. That makes no sense. Our mental health issues can be solved from the perspective of the soul, or a higher order, a higher calling, a wise mind, a higher power, our spirit guiding ourselves back to, a harmonious place. And so that's part one. Art is the language of the soul. Secondly, when these young people illustrate and communicate concepts such as being the watcher of my thoughts, right? A young person, a Gen Z artist drew this. This book of our fundamental life tools is full of illustrations from young people just like this, where they're able to describe this concept. Here's what's beautiful about this concept being described this way. You get it immediately. You look at it 1 second, you're like, oh, that makes sense. But think about how many paragraphs are written about trying to describe this mental, mindful awareness stuff, and like they kind of make sense, kind of not. You look at an image for a second, an illustration, an expression of soulfulness, and it's right then and there. That to me tells me that there's something really magical happening, and the capacity for art and creativity to be this bridge for connection and communication. Symbols, meaning, stories, this is the lifeblood of human connection and how we connect to each other in a creatively spiritual way, in a way that isn't forced. It's just humans being humans. Turns out Homo sapien sapien translates to the species that is aware, So it is that knowingness, the capacity for that knowingness, that is the defining attributes and characteristics of the human species as a birthright of our being. So then let's reclaim our birthright. Right? Yes, we've been living like royalty, but let's be nobility. And with this state of being noble, let's take back our power and our throne at the seat of our consciousness, the seat of our soul, rather than from the mentalized cognitive chatter of trying to monkey around in this modern world, trying to, just get a little bit more and scrap for a little bit more, right? So that's the second reason why creativity, why art. The third reason is this: to be the observer of the thoughts is only one half of our awareness practice. It's to be the observer of the thoughts and then to create a new one. It's the second part, creating the new thought. This is the next generation of mindfulness, where the first generation of mindfulness was to be the observer, but now we're observing and then we're creating a new thought. Well, where do I go to the gym for my creativity? Oh, that's what doing art is. Being in this place where I'm logging time, that I'm getting to my 10,000 hours of being in a creative, artistic space, is logging time in this space that is very, very comfortable, creating new things, creating new ideas, creating new thoughts. So I'm training at this state, this practice of creative mindful awareness by learning how to observe and then create new thoughts, and I'm logging time creating. When a person at an early developmental stage learns to throw, it's smooth. When they don't, it's not second nature. Right? So the critical developmental stage that your daughter is in between the ages of 4 and 9, anything that they do with repetition at those age and stage becomes second nature to them. And so if creativity and art isn't emphasized in the household, then creating isn't second nature. And if art is the language of the soul, then a young person who isn't creating when they're younger, then the language of their own soul doesn't feel second nature to them. That's a big price we pay for the people who don't have access or exposure to the creative arts, creating it all. And then all of a sudden they get older and they're like, I don't know, I just feel kind of disconnected. I don't feel like I have any connection to myself. What is that? Yeah, that's the price we're paying by having art taken out of the schools. Our local elementary school here does not have an art teacher, and that is why our nonprofit exists, to ensure every local kid here who can come to our place has access to free art classes. We have an amazing scholarship program where people who donate to our 501c3 can help make our scholarship program available to any young person who needs a safe place to come and learn how to create. this is what we're here for.
Yeah, I love that. That's incredible. I think I already know how you're going to answer this, but I got to ask it anyway. So, can art become a healthy outlet for emotions that are difficult to express?
Yeah, I mean, not just can it, it's like the perfect pathway. Think of it this
Yeah.
way. If I have words for it, then I'll tell you about it. If I have words
Hmm.
for it, I'll write about it. But if I have no
Hmm.
words for it, let me express it through art. There you go. And
Very
even
simple.
here's what's so key is that it doesn't matter what the art looks like. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
if it's good or bad or skilled or not. It just doesn't. What matters is that the person is in this state of present and focused, but not thinking, accessing flow, accessing deeper parts of their psyche, their being, and their soul. And they, in that space of inner alchemy, have the opportunity to self-heal by just being. This is the promise and hope and potential of the creative arts, particularly when it's taken out of the mentality of judging on whether or not it's a good painting. That's part of the problem of the materialization and productization of everything we do. Oh, is this a good painting or not? Will it sell or not? How much would it sell for? Is it valuable? Let's get out of all that. A person doesn't go to the gym so that they can sell their six-pack abs. That's just not how we think about it. We go because we want to stay healthy, right? So if a person is going to the creative lab for their gym, for their their creative gym for the gym for their creativity, there you go.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
then what they're doing is investing in their own spiritual health, their own creative health. It doesn't matter the outcome. It doesn't matter if the song was cool, or if they sound good when they're freestyling. I mean, let's talk about freestyling as an art form. So we have a
Absolutely.
summer camp. And we teach freestyling at the summer camp, and honestly, it does not matter if the kids sound cool or not, if they got bars. That's not it. It's that they're getting comfortable being in a place where they're present and focused, but not thinking. And the moment they think, we know how it goes with freestyling. You trip up, it gets goofed up, right? Well, that is a very distinct way for us to know and identify whether or not the person's in flow state. Now, if a person is painting, they may be in flow state, they may not be in flow state. There's no way to know. But with freestyling, there is absolutely a way to know. And not only is there a way to know, but then that kid who's experiencing those moments where they're like on top of the moment, it's channeling through from some other place, they begin to understand and remember what that feels like. And the more a
Right.
person can
Right.
bring that energy into their life, into the other facets, that's how I feel right now. I'm not thinking about what I'm saying. We're in flow state together,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so, and you can tell, a person can tell when somebody else is in that flow state. This is what we're trying to train, or this is what we're successfully teaching the youth here to train to be in. But the first thing that it takes is knowing that it even exists. How can I teach a young person about flow state if we never use those words, right? From a more medical point of view, it's transient hypofrontality. And what's happening in transient hypofrontality is the prefrontal cortex, where all those voices and chatter, monkey mind reside, shuts down, so the person is no longer listening to all of that noise. That's why we begin to get relief when we're creating, and it just feels good.
Hmm. Yeah. That's absolutely right. So, why did you write Fundamental Life Tools? What's important about that?
Yeah. I'm so excited about this book. I'm so excited about the fundamental
Yeah, I
life
saw the
tools.
drawing there. I loved it.
Yeah, and not only is it filled with drawings like that, but it's also filled with these hand-drawn. These are hand-drawn mandalas by a young teenager, local
Ooh.
Eva Asadal. She's a brilliant, brilliant young mind. I'm excited for when she hears this podcast and she hears the way I speak about her on published media. That she's a truly brilliant mind and a young leader in the making. And one of the amazing things about her hand-illustrated mandalas is that some of them were created activated specifically with the energy of these 7 tools. So she is meditating and contemplating about these 7 tools and the energy of these tools while illustrating the mandalas, so that a future person who is coloring them as a way of just coping and relaxing will be taking in and structuring the consciousness of their inner geometry to the same inner geometry that she was contemplating as she was drawing it in the first place. Now, these 7 tools we're teaching: awareness that I'm not my thoughts, I'm the one having the thoughts. Radical acceptance of everything that it is, so I can go back to serenity. Intention, so that I know what I want in life and have a vision to go towards it. Gratitude and G-flipping. I hate homework. I'm grateful I have a free education and a teacher who cares about me. Compassion and kindness to all living things. Forgiveness is a way of getting over resentment and the evil poison that resentment can be when it's in my bloodstream of hatred and negativity, and the freedom I get when I relieve that resentment through the power of forgiveness. And connection to myself, connection to you, connection to a higher power of my own understanding. And so when a young person goes through this program and they come out the other side with these 7 tools on board, we've got a different person on our hands. We have a conscious person. When a person, when people come and visit our lab, which is called Resin here in Hermosa Beach, pretty much every time they'll be like, wow, your teens are really special. There's like something about them. Boy, they're really, they begin to think, wow, they're really smart. But it's not that they're that smart. They are smart, but it's not that, right? It's that they're conscious. That has a vibe to it, right? And so, when the students come out the other side of this, they're conscious, mindful, aware observers of their thoughts. And in that space of empowered self, then they have all the choices at their fingertips. And quite often, when I know and I remember and I remember that I have all the choices of how I want to be at my fingertips, well, then I choose bliss. Then I choose joy. Then I choose gratitude and abundance. And my goodness, let's have a good time right here, right now.
There you go. Shout out to her, man. That's a brilliant. Yes, that's brilliant stuff, man. I love that. So out of those 7 life tools, what do you think, or what tool do you think people struggle the most with?
Well, 90% certainly struggle with awareness if they don't know it exists. So we'll start with that.
Yeah.
We're at an epidemic of isolation, aloneness, and disconnection. So one could say connection might be the answer to that question. We see a world out there that's rife with war and violence and retaliation. So you'd say forgiveness might be the one that we're struggling with, right? We lack purpose and clarity and intention, direction. So intention might be the answer. We get upset at the smallest things because life is just unacceptable. So I think maybe acceptance is the answer. I know that acceptance is the answer to all my problems today. Any problem I'm having, no matter what it is, it's because I find some person, place, or thing unacceptable. And I can't get back to having a serenity in my heart until I just accept reality exactly as it is. All that is as it is. Let's go. Let's go.
For sure. You said something about acceptance. So many people confuse acceptance with giving up.
Right.
Explain.
Right.
What's the difference?
Right. They confuse it with apathy or not caring or just giving up or letting others trample over us, right? Acceptance is actually an empowered state. We'll use the example of having a bully, right? Because, if I'm a 7th grader and another kid's bullying me, acceptance doesn't mean I just accept that this person's going to bully me and I'm going to let them. I'm going to give up. I'll let them bully me. It means accepting the facts as they are. I accept that this person's bullying me. I accept that this person's behavior is outside of my hula hoop and they are not mine to control. And as long as I keep thinking I'm going to change this person to control them, I'm going to keep suffering. I accept that what I can control is my own behavior, and what I can do is tell the teacher and the principal and the right authorities. So there's a sense of, what's the word? Like ownership, of accountability that I get, empowerment that I get with accepting the facts as they are and accepting my role in it. Because the opposite of this, or one expression of the opposite of this, might be a person who's getting bullied and they're flailing around and arguing and yelling and whining and complaining about it and being a victim and pointing and saying all the things that are wrong, but they're not taking any accountability that it's on them to go talk to the principal or the right person about it. right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to, another example that we use with the students is if a person gets an F on a math test. Acceptance is, I accept this as my grade. How can I do better? Non-acceptance doesn't sound like, I do not believe that's true. Non-acceptance sounds like, well, the teacher didn't explain it well enough, and I didn't get good sleep the night before, and I'm not a good test taker, and it's not fair. Tests aren't fair. And you know what? My parents are going to ground me once they find out. So if I hide this at the bottom of my book bag, are they going to see it? I don't want to get in trouble. Oh my gosh, my parents are going to be so mad at me. Okay. I got a grade on a test, and I'm already at, my parents are going to get mad at me, catastrophizing. Nowhere in that pathway is the self-accountability of it's on me to work harder to get a better grade, right? So within acceptance, even if it feels one could perceive like they're rolling over or giving up, it's not that. It's accepting the facts as they are and then taking accountability so that I can be the change that I want to see in the situation.
There's something that you said that, you know, triggered me. And it wasn't like how you said it, it was a memory that brought back to me.
Sure, sure.
And it was me being a kid. My mom married this man. I couldn't stand his guts and I just hated him. Well, he's dead now, but I couldn't stand his guts because if you talk about my mom, she was brutally like just as attacking verbally, just like my mom. So like anytime like I didn't know something, I didn't know the answer to something when he was helping with, my homework or something like that. First things he would say is, "You in bad shape. You in bad shape." I'm like, well, damn, I give up. I give up. Like,
Wow.
what you,
Wow. Talk about
what
the
you want me
power
to
of
do, man?
programming and what we are talking earlier
Yeah.
about the message the parents sends to the kids. You're in bad shape. And if the kid believes it, I mean, you're an adult, you must know. I guess I am. Boy, that's so defeating. Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Wow.
That brought me back to that because it was a punch in the gut because of how he said it to me. He said it to my brother. He said it to my sister too, in so many different ways. Like it was like how are we going to grow in life if we don't have that type of support?
Yeah.
Like you keep hanging around these. I'm sorry. You keep hanging around these losers, and they are just verbally just talking crazy. They saying things. They're not wired the way that a kid is supposed to be wired. They've been kids before too, so that's something understandable. And I'm like, dude, okay, it was hard. Like that's why I didn't strive as much in school. It wasn't until high school that I actually got taken a little seriously because I was not even on the verge of graduating. I think it was 2006. I ended up graduating later on in the year of 2006. I think it was June of 2006. I was probably about a month or two late, maybe June or July. I couldn't remember which one it was. But that took me to a whole nother level. I thought about all of those insults. I thought about all of the, you know, things that was being said. I'm like, okay, if I don't get it together, then yeah, they gonna be right. They're gonna be right. So let me get myself together and let's do this. And that's how I managed to overlook it. And it wasn't even something I can actually sit my thoughts on. I didn't sit down and actually think about these things. And this is why this podcast is important because I think about these things and I look at it and I'm like, huh, well, a lot of things starts to make sense. A lot of
Yeah.
things is actually connecting. And
Yeah.
that to me, now, yeah, that brought my attention to a memory. And I just,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sorry you had to go through that, and that makes sense. And that's
it
probably
is
a
what it is,
story.
though.
So many people. I mean, how many households? That's the story. You know,
What's that?
how many households, and how many groups of friends, people we surround us, right? What's that saying? Show me the 5 people you hang out with, and I'll show you who you are, right? And
There you go.
we are what we're around. And so if the feedback I'm getting from the environment that I'm in is one of, being defeated or a victim or, any sort of aggression or negativity, then that will greatly shape the voices and thoughts in my head, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. We
Yes.
become a product of that environment to a degree.
Yeah. So why do you think genuine human connection is so important to mental health?
When it comes to things like addiction, and in Johann Corey's TED Talk, he said the statement, the opposite of addiction isn't abstinence, it's connection. And whenever I share that in rooms of recovery, I hear, oh, yeah, like it resonates, right? It just rings true. It just feels right, right? And, the fastest way to not be thinking about me and my problems and stresses is to be focused on you. Be serving you. Be focused on connecting with you. So here's the thing is... I was so surprised to find out that Salt Lake City had one of the highest crime rates. I would think about that city. Now, interesting. Now, what I've come to realize is I think it's this. It's where crime is being reported the most. So there's going to be some other parts in the country where there's more crime maybe, but it's just not as vigilantly policed and reported. Okay.
Right.
Mental health issues are because a person is getting diagnosed or seeking out help or sharing with somebody else that it exists. If a person doesn't cite any mental health anything, then you don't know it's happening. We don't have it. We don't have a problem if there's something that just doesn't exist, right? Okay. If a person is connecting and in service, better case scenario or best case scenario, but just connecting at all, because I'm here with you being in us, I'm not here with you talking about me and my mental health. Right. So in real time, the nature of connection makes it an experience that is focused on the beauty of being connected rather than the isolated experience of mental health in and of itself. So it's hard for me to be focused on my struggles. Like, it's interesting. There's some people that I help in early recovery, and the moment they begin becoming more aware, it's like things get way worse because for a while they're obsessing about themselves and they're thinking about it, and it's like some sort of curse until they learn to calibrate, rebalance their system by having more service, more selflessness involved, so that they're not the only thing they're thinking about all the time. There's a healthy balance in there. So that's in part why I think connection is so effective. And one of many reasons. I could go on about connecting to nature. Man. But that's the one that comes top of mind. Yeah, you can tell I could probably talk about each of these tools a bit.
Hey, like that's the whole purpose, man. You talk about these things, man. And you never stop. Like that's how it's so important. That's how you know that you're serious about it. That's where you know your advocacy is kicking in.
Yeah.
You know that's important. That's
Fire in the heart. Fire in the heart. Right.
Yes.
I was, after I got sober at 35, trying to consider what I'm going to do for the next career. Should I become a teacher, this, that, or the other? And I was given the great guidance. Wait until you can feel a fire in your heart. How fascinating. And then I went to go volunteer for my daughter's elementary school and reached out to the art teacher. And they're like, oh, no, sorry. We actually don't have an art teacher. And I'm like, what? A little bit of fire in the heart. Let me go show my art at a local gallery here in town. Type in Hermosa Beach Galleries. 0 results. Fire in the heart. Sell my first piece at a gallery in the traditional commission structure. They take 50%. I sell it for $2,300. Now I'm down to whatever, $1,150. Then I know the cost of canvas and frames. I'm down to $800. I'll be paying taxes. I'm down to $500. Wait a minute. I did this for like less than minimum wage. Are you telling me all the artists out there that aren't the 5% that are big time, all the rest of us, a lot of us are doing stuff for less than minimum wage? The moment I was supposed to feeling triumphant, I sold a piece. I was little t trauma feeling less than, because I'm like, why am I even an artist? It checks my identity, my purpose. I share all that to say that too gave a little bit of fire in the heart. And so the creation of this nonprofit, Indivisible Arts, was at the intersection of solving for those 3 challenges: no art in elementary schools and access to art, creating a gallery in the local community and creating a place for artists to be able to sell their work, donate back to the nonprofit mission, and have a healthier relationship to them selling their own work than what the gallery structure has been for the last 4 decades.
You pinpointed it. Like you pinpoint what exactly needed to be done. You saw zero results. You saw the things that wasn't even shown. You seen it and you attacked it with fire in your heart, like you said.
Fire in the heart.
That, yes, that's how you bring that awareness.
Yeah.
That's how you bring it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, how can parents build stronger relationships with their children?
Sure. The Fundamental Life Tools website will be done in the next month. So anyone who's hearing it or seeing the notes in your podcast in the future, they'll be able to go to fundamentalLifeTools.org. They can buy the book. They can take the course. We're going to have a course that teaches parents how to teach these tools. And then they themselves will become more comfortable with them along the way. So learn these tools to be able to teach them to your kids in a way that they can hear you, and learn them for yourself along the way. That seems like a good deal. And so that's one way. A second way is to be very mindful of the fact that the stuff that I'm saying to them very well might become the programs, that help shape them over the next, even when I'm not around them anymore. It'll still be echoing in their head in a voice that sounds like their own, parroting what I told them once as if they believe it to be true. That's taking on the responsibility of being conscious enough on how we speak to our kids so that it matters. That could be another place. And then thirdly, modeling it. Right, modeling it and not being on our phones. How many parents? The kids start laughing when I go. Ooh. How many parents go, "Hey, how was your day today?" Oh, and are they really present? So how are we modeling it for our kids? Taking on that accountability, I think, is super important.
So, creativity, can that reduce stress and anxiety?
Sure, it's been scientifically proven. It's just done, and not only in like long term, like, hey, I got anxiety, stress, depression, and now here I am 6 months later and I'm in a better state, because I paint twice a week. It could be that easy. Or I'm in this moment and I've had a rough day. Let me go to the music studio and jam around, and then afterwards, boy, oh boy, I just feel better, right? So whether it's in the present moment or for longer term, healthcare maintenance, creativity and art is a scientifically provable, coping opportunity, a skill building, mastery training, pathway to joy and soul that scientifically relieves, decreases stress, anxiety, and depression.
Okay. So, got a couple of advice questions I want to ask real quick. So, what do you tell a teenager that feels that nobody's listening to them?
Yell louder. No, I'm just kidding. Spray paint on the side of a building. No, I'm just kidding. Hang in there. Hang in there. You matter. You are enough. You are enough. And someday you'll find other people that are just like you, and you'll be able to bond over this feeling you feel. But you're not the only one who feels alone and unheard.
And what would you tell parents that feel helpless?
Empower yourself. Stop being a victim.
Correct. I agree.
Sorry, not to be.
That's absolutely true. But this is truth.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, no, right? There's so many opportunities, tools, programs, things, exercise, whatever. Go out and begin being the best one can at serving their kids by bringing tools and laying them at their feet in any which way you can. Now, I'm also not trying to be like compassionate to a parent who's struggling with a challenging situation where it's just out of their hands and their kid is wilding out and it's hard. And so then my heart goes out to that person, because sometimes some situations are just effed up. And so to that parent, like, my heart goes out to you, because I think we all know what it feels like to not be able to connect with their kid. You feel like you've lost them one way or another. And, until I get that bridge back and feeling like me and my daughter on the same page, then like the universe feels like it's out of sorts.
Yeah, I agree. All right, one last question before we get out of here.
Yeah.
So, when you hear the words "break your mental health," what do they mean to you?
Break your mental health to me means in this present moment in time and epoch that we're living in, maybe it's not a time to continue to slow roll, waltzing along the slow, lackadaisical journey towards this place of more mental well-being. Maybe we need to like pay attention to this and break glass, and in case of emergency, let's break the glass. Let's all hands on deck. Let's really pay attention to AI is going to start iterating and speeding up in a loops of development faster and faster as time goes on. And I think we need to lock arms and get steadfast and break the current system of mental health to birth something new. Clearly, if the current system of mental health was working, then maybe we wouldn't have an epidemic. Maybe we need to try new things. Listen, I owe so much to my life to therapy. Therapy absolutely has its role. And there's a price we pay when we've modeled our society to say, the moment they go, my kid's struggling, what should I do? I don't know, I go to a therapist. For that to be the narrative of as if there aren't so many other ways to serve this kid. Get him a good karate teacher. Have them have them join the Boy Scouts. Like there's so many different ways to and therapy is important, but what I'm trying to say is that entire industry, practice, academia, philosophy, the moment it becomes academic at the entire journey, soul and spirit are taken off the table. And if we're building a solution set that's supposed to be the best and brightest of what we got, but soul and spirit aren't part of the supportive solution from a mentality and philosophy point of view, then that's like a bird trying to fly with one wing.
Yeah, for sure. That is a good statement. I like hearing that. When I hear it, when I hear breaking mental health, it's listening. Most important.
I love that.
It's always listening.
I
Like
love that.
it's always the smaller things. Just small, right?
Yeah.
You do the small things, and when you get that development, it grows, grows, and grows, and boom. Listening.
That's good.
That's all it can
That's
be.
good. I love it.
All right, man.
All right, Darrell, this was
I
fun.
appreciate you coming on, man. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good,
very
man.
cool. Very
I
cool.
appreciate you coming on, man.
So you'll be hearing more from me because I'm going to be returning to talk to you about this platform we're launching, the Aware Minds Project. We're going to unite 1 million aware, conscious people in this nation, on this planet, to be a force for good, an assembly and ambassadors of awareness and consciousness. Let's go. Let's unite conscious people.
Let's go.
So it's the Aware Minds Project for young people to go to streamofconsciousness.life. The book is the Fundamental Life Tools. The nonprofit is Indivisible Arts. And Darrell, thank you so much for having me on as a guest, to listen, to give me a chance and a platform to share with your guests right now and in future times that haven't happened yet, to when they're finally hearing this for the first time, that they are not their thoughts. They're the one having the thoughts. The thoughts are like programs. We can change the programs. And from that seat of power of the mindful aware observer, I now have the opportunity to create new thoughts, create my reality. Let's go create some fun out there.
Man, let's go do this, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. You've been the best, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Lasers.
Lasers. Later.
Later.